Hey, everybody. So I decided I wanted to try and watch a Lauren Chen video. I had so many to pick from because, my God, Lauren has made a ton of very, very stupid fucking videos over the past month. And I think it's almost been a month since the last time I made one on her. That was like March 10th. Yeah, it's been about a month. Yeah, so it's time to go back to addressing Lauren's big brain arguments, and I guess this one is about Jon Stewart. She's very upset with Jon Stewart. A lot of people are very upset with Jon Stewart these days. I do watch Jon Stewart's show, and I don't always agree with him, but at the same time, when he was on the Daily Show, same. I agreed with him a lot, and there were some things that I did not agree. And I really don't think that he's changed really much anymore. It's just that he has a different format for this show than he did for the Daily Show. Daily Show was very quick, written by many people, very polished, had a studio audience and everything. That there was a point to it. To be more kinetic and fast and tackle things because it was literally a daily show. But I don't think he has changed a shit ton like many of these people claim. But anyway, let's hear Lauren's argument for how Jon Stewart has fallen.
Hey, Lauren here. Let's talk about the awakening of Jon Stewart. Now, I've mentioned before on this channel how when I was younger, specifically an edgy teen, just starting to become interested in politics, I used to watch shows like The Daily Show with Jon Stewart or The Colbert Report, which honestly I've always thought was superior, pretty frequently. And
The Colbert Report superior to The Daily Show with Jon Stewart? I don't think so. No. No. I'm sorry.
no, it's not that I ever agreed with those shows or those hosts because I feel like unlike most right-wing political commentators nowadays, I don't have a walk-away story. Not that I haven't had my own political evolutions.
She has to explain why, hey, guys, actually, it was totally fine. Don't cancel me. My extremely fragile snowflake right-wing audience. I never actually agreed with it, but I was edgy, and that's why I watched it. Who gives a fuck?
It's just I've never been left wing. Instead, I think what drew me to those shows was just that they were discussing current events in a more fun and entertaining and lighthearted way, which
Sure.
at the time, considering that the YouTube political commentary sphere or online political commentary sphere in general just didn't exist like it does now, that was pretty novel. And so
As far as I know, the only YouTube political commentary channel that even comes close to The Daily Show as far as tone and amount of humor, and I would say is actually probably the spiritual successor to The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, is Some More News, Mr. Cody Shody, which is also like legit one of my favorite channels. They do a fantastic fucking job. And if you watch old Daily Show, they're very similar. Very similar.
So as someone who is very familiar with Jon Stewart's content from what I would call his height of popularity, I feel like I can confidently say that yes, he has always been left-wing and not just kind of center-left either. He's always, as far as I could tell, been the sort of typical Hollywood elitist champagne socialist type. And not only that, but in a similar way, he's also...
He lived in New York. Wasn't really part of the Hollywood scene there, kiddo.
Always had this, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, Last Week Tonight. No, well, yeah, Last Week Tonight is fucking fantastic, too. John Oliver is a goddamn genius. But I was talking, like, YouTube, not really, like, studio-produced sort of thing. I think Cody Shody. Yeah. I can't wait. I want them to sell Warmbo puppets. I need a Warmbo puppet.
Sort of smugness about him, this unearned air of moral superiority when he's talking about politics. That's also not new. And those two things specifically, the smugness and the leftism, those were always things that kind of put me off his content, even though I ultimately still thought he was worth watching. But one thing that he definitely wasn't,
God,
at least
so
not
boring.
15 years ago, was woke. And by woke, I don't mean left-wing or progressive, because again, he has always been those things. But I'm talking specifically about this racial identitarianism, or this cultural Marxism that really
Woke. Woke is race identitarianism and cultural Marxism. Oh, okay. All right. This is what woke is?
only within the past, I would say, 6-7 years or so, has become mainstream among the left. When it came to social issues in the past, Jon Stewart always kind of struck me as like this classical liberal left-wing libertarian type.
That's what you wanted him to be, because you guys watered down those fucking terms to try and get people who are more left and liberal leaning, like me, calling yourselves a classical liberal and then starting to slowly adopt your conservative right-wing values. Classical liberal means conservative. That's what that means. Sorry.
Fast forward to today, and he has full-on embraced authoritarian left-wing talking points. And this is painfully clear in his new show on Apple TV, The Problem with Jon Stewart. In fact, not that long ago, he recently did a segment called The Problem with White People. And again, he is someone who has always been on the left, always been progressive, yeah, but still, as someone who has watched a lot of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, never in a million years would that show have had such a segment. And so that's what we're going to be looking at today, to see just how far Jon Stewart has fallen and how he has completely embraced today's radical left-wing politics, kind of abandoning his previous more reasonable left-wing politics. But before we get into it, I do want to say a huge thank you to today's sponsor.
Fuck off. What even is it? My digital money. Oh, of course, she's fucking shilling crypto. Hey, everybody. Oh, fuck you. Jesus.
Money.com. So like I mentioned, this segment on Stewart's show was titled The Problem with White People. Already, I think we know what we're all in for. We've seen this before, and you can watch the segment in its entirety on YouTube, but for the full episode of the show, I think you have to be a Apple Plus or Apple TV subscriber. I don't know. That's one of the few streaming services, along with Disney Plus, for obvious reasons, that I don't have. So like,
I don't like these things because they make me scared. They challenge my ideals, and I don't like it, and woke and blah, 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 blah. Can you imagine? Like, okay, the thing that drives me crazy about this kind of shit, that really drives me crazy about this kind of shit, is this is pure fragility to me. Like, oh, I don't like decisions made by this company, so I'm going to dictate whether or not I'm going to enjoy some of the content in it, even if it's content that I would enjoy. What a fucking baby. Like, I understand if it's something so egregious that you want to, like, speak with your dollars and whatnot, but Disney doesn't fucking care. They don't care. Nobody's going to cancel Disney. Disney owns like half of all the fucking movies that come out now. They don't give a shit. It's so dumb. Personally, I believe that somebody should take a stand against the overblown and bloated prices of all the streaming services, and just start straight up advocating for people getting VPNs and you know. So anyway.
I don't know what's going on with the rest of this show. And so Stewart starts off the segment by talking about how America has always had a problem with race, especially in regard to things like slavery, Jim Crow, and redlining, but how these problems have persisted until today.
Mostly it's been fine. We've all been chilling. It's been chill. Until a couple years ago, another rare bad thing happened to black people in the summer of 2020.
George Floyd's death is sparking a national reckoning.
The death of George Floyd, it sparks this global movement, this racial reckoning.
Okay, so am I the only one here who has a little bit of a problem describing what happened to George Floyd as something bad happening to black people?
There was more than just George Floyd. There's a lot more. And it was a resurgence of something that we saw previously that was pretty bad. Pretty bad. It shined a new national light on it, and it ended up being like a global fucking movement. Now, whether or not... So, okay. You know what? I'll bring it up in a minute. Let's hear what she has to say.
Like just black people as a whole. I mean, I think there's a pretty good argument to be made that perhaps what happened to George Floyd was a reckoning for fentanyl users and enjoyers, for those who enjoy resisting arrest while on a lot of fentanyl. But it's
See, yeah, just fucking absolute shit brain. Ultra bitch fucking right-wing talking points. I swear to God. It's in the, so that's something that I always find interesting. There's the notion of performative cruelty, which is fine, if there's like a very distinct point that you're trying to get across with your cruelty, but that's not. This is virtue signaling. Her taking the the fentanyl and resisting arrest. That this is fucking virtue signaling to her goddamn slavering right wing audience, being like, yeah, talk more shit about George Floyd. Yeah. Jesus fucking Christ, man. Holy shit. Holy shit. Oh my God. And then the self-awareness is just not fucking there. It's so crazy.
especially considering that now we have seen the trial of Derek Chauvin happen, in which no allegations of racism were made in the courtroom, still trying to
Why would they bother? It's a fucking murder trial.
frame what happened between Floyd and Chauvin as this moment of racial reckoning. It rings very, very false and dogmatic. And I think especially trying to weave George Floyd into this tapestry of America mistreating Black people. I mean, you're going to try to honestly compare a police officer trying to restrain someone who was arrested and was overdosing on 3 times the lethal amount of fentanyl to, I mean, like something like slavery. This is a reach.
Wait, I'm not really sure exactly. I mean, maybe that's in the problem with Jon Stewart episode or something. I'm not sure. I haven't seen this one.
This is an attempt to build a narrative of oppression that reaches over hundreds of years. And frankly, unfortunately, it does work for some people. But for anybody who actually knows anything about the case or crime statistics, this is just ideological rhetoric. But
Nah. Look, that's dumbing it down. It doesn't matter about the fucking case. The case was handled by the law. That's how it works. That's how the courts work. That's how things operate. But you can't deny that the whole thing around George Floyd and the subsuing protests has had a very huge effect. A huge effect. Now, does it have the effect that we want, where cops will stop, doing a murder on unarmed people, white and black? No, it hasn't really helped with that. Not really. Maybe in some small cases, sure. Some places are trying, more like crisis response units rather than just like immediately having the cops, et cetera, et cetera. But before George Floyd, and not just George Floyd, but a lot of these, and this big BLM movement popped up. And I've got plenty of problems with like some of the organization that happened around with that, and some of the protests went way bonkers. But now, before that, a lot of people, just normal ass, like regular normie people, did not know terms like systemic racism. They weren't really keyed into, and I'm talking normies, not like us on the internet, because we've heard all this shit, and like some of it's annoying, some of it's true, some of it's whatever. Normies didn't really quite understand that. And if anything it did, is that it actually started to include people so that they could start having these conversations. Unfortunately, not everybody's going to be very thoughtful about it, but at least it's there. So it had a decent, tangible effect. I think that that's something that we should be able to appreciate, regardless of whether or not we manage to stop, police murdering unarmed people.
But of course, that's now par for the course with this new woke Jon Stewart. Next in this segment, I actually did kind of appreciate this. Stewart pokes fun at all of the meaningless virtue signaling that happened in light of George Floyd's death. Specifically, things like replacing Black mascots like Aunt Jemima or Uncle Ben, and that weird kneeling with the African sashes that the Democrats did. I mean, it's nice to know that Stewart is still rational enough to understand that those things do nothing, and we should.
He's rational for the things that I agree with, but the things that I don't agree with, he's just irrational. Okay.
Laugh at them. But then he moves on to talking about, okay, in his opinion, what should white people do in order to make things better for Black people? Because now
Sure.
He is a racial identitarian, and it is very much white people versus Black people, separate groups.
I don't think he ever said it's white people versus Black people. Nobody on that show is going to say that. I know. 100% not. 100 fucking percent not. That's not the way Jon Stewart talks. It's fucking ridiculous.
Who have different interests and who don't work together, apparently. And yeah, cue this reel of more far left talking points.
Okay, white people, ears to hear.
This is the harsh reality for Black people in America today, that we are expected to participate in democracy while receiving conditional citizenship in return.
When zip code determines what kind of school that you go to, when zip code determines what kind of food you can eat, these are the vestiges of enslavement. So when they...
Yeah, that's kind of true. I mean, you can say that there's no law specifically that keeps people locked into one place and thus having to deal with some of those issues, but that is true. And it's easy if you have the money, you know, to be able to pull yourself out of said situation. That's why these are like general statements. These aren't like everybody. And that's why right-wingers will try and claim that they're making like a general statement, like a statement of a very broad statement about all Black people so that they can point to like one successful dude over there, you know, who gets paid like, you know, $10,000 for speaking engagements at fucking CPAC and shit. And they're like, see, they're wrong. It's so funny. It's so fucking funny.
They say, why do you burn down the community? Why do you burn down your own neighborhood? It's not ours. We don't own anything.
Yeah, just the framing, the setup of those clips, the idea that white people as a whole need to listen to Black people as a whole. Black people are not a monolith. They have different ideas, different talking points, different interests, perhaps.
Sure,
and it's likewise
sure.
very frustrating hearing those speakers, which Stewart's team have chosen specifically for their leftist ideology, saying things like that Black people have conditional citizenship. Well, I don't even know what you're referring to there. It's like
Well, you're not American, so maybe you just don't get it.
maybe you're talking about voter ID laws, but the idea that that's racist has been debunked. It's like, aside from that, I don't even like what is the assertion of racism there? I can't even say. And then next, it actually is true right now that your zip code does determine your education, where you go to school. But guess what? That's not racism. That is the result of Democrats fighting school choice.
See, you know what? I've been thinking that this is the next big thing, the next big push for the rightoids is just straight attacking public schools. That's where they want to go next. Absolutely. So, and I was surprised. I thought she'd be like, well, nobody's forcing you to live in those zip codes, but apparently she knows enough to dodge that one. But yeah, no, okay. So the answer to that is, well, it's not coming back to like the redlining and historical like segregation, anything like that. No. It's just because Democrats bad. Okay, all right.
I'm in favor of school choice. So yeah, the idea that it's just like it's white people who are trying to keep Black people down with the zip codes and schooling, it's like, no, literally it is Democrats, it is public school teachers unions, and they should be stopped because
Yeah. So it's just it. Look, the problem is not because of the problem that you can actually see. It's because Democrats bad. Okay, all right.
that is an actual systemic disadvantage that certain students, not based on race, it's more income level, have to deal with.
But there we go. She was almost there. Okay. So she admits that it's a systemic problem. Okay. And she says, but it's based more on income. Okay. But we have statistics that show a disparity in income along race, as well as it's specifically clustering in very specific areas. That isn't to say that, of course, there can be places where there are a lot more poor white people and they have shittier schools. Sure. But in general, broadly speaking, so you could say that there is a racialized component to it. And you could say even that the fact that they have less money comes from, a history of less familial income being passed down. Fucking Jesus Christ. Whatever. Fuck it.
The food thing, that's not slavery. That's just socioeconomics. Poor people tend to make different dietary decisions, even when given healthier alternatives than rich people. It's a problem, and I think, frankly, that could be addressed with better nutritional education, but that's neither here nor there. And finally, my favorite of these three.
Where are they going to get better nutritional education, Lauren? In their shitty, poverty-ridden schools that are very clearly, very clearly separated into economic groups, which also correlate towards their race. Is that they're gonna get their better nutritional education? You fucking moron! Holy shit!
Clip slash activist is the deranged overweight woman who's saying, oh, they say, why are we burning our own neighborhoods down? Well, they're not ours. Okay, first off, you should not be burning any neighborhoods down, whether they belong to your racial group or not. Just probably not a good thing to do in a civilized.
You're really showing that woman who was talking in a clip from months ago. I think actually a couple years ago. I think those are clips like from 2019, 2018, something like that. I think so. But dang, Lauren, you're slaying it.
Society or any society, really. It's like there's actual footage of Black business and homeowners crying after BLM riots that would very much push back against the idea that those neighborhoods that are being destroyed do not belong to the Black community. And guys, I know with this response video format, when you go clip by clip, nitpicking certain things, it might feel like I'm purposefully ignoring Jon Stewart's larger commentary about racial inequality and white people not listening to the needs and problems of Black people. But as I think about it, if every
but
single...
it's weird because, like, at the same time, she's not really giving enough information on what Jon was even saying. She's not really even talking about really like what Jon was saying about white. Does she bring it up? Does she play? Okay, she's gonna play another clip, and I'm fascinated to hear because I'm just so confused by this shit. She's just standing on a soapbox and ranting about like racism isn't real.
One of your supporting arguments is based off a lie and BS, then how on earth could your entire argument as a whole be taken seriously? And that's why I'm going through this right now. And next, this little clip we have is not really some huge political point that Stewart is trying to make. It's just, I want to show you guys it because I think it illustrates how not funny this show is. And it's like, all right, oftentimes when people like Jon Stewart or Stephen Colbert...
The problem is that it's just not funny. Okay.
Be get things wrong, they're not accurate, it's not insightful commentary. The excuse they always hide behind is, oh, well, I'm just a comedian, which is like, okay, I understand there is a difference between being a comedian versus a journalist or reporter or a commentator, but it's like, you guys aren't even funny. And when you host this type of like late night current event show, you pretty much have two jobs: to talk about current events and be funny. And it's like right now, Jon Stewart is failing at both of these things, as we will see.
White people are pretending that this problem is new, and we're just hearing about it now because we love to discover stuff that's already existed. It's kind of our thing. America! Where did you come from?
A joke is bad.
Nah, that's fucking great. No. That was a good fucking joke. No, and he's right though. Like there has been a concerted effort, and it's an ongoing effort by right-wing media to say that racism is over. Right? It's happened. It's been happening for a really long time. Like, sure, there's some like isolated little things here and there and whatnot. But he was no angel. Random ass shit. And it's really fucking weird because I just got distracted by something fucking nutty. Because like as things go along, and if people are just kind of consuming media, unless something becomes a boiling point, a lot of people don't know that it's a big problem. Like, for instance, unless you hear about a mass shooting at, like, a school that takes out at least 6 kids, you won't even hear about it. But they fucking happen. We still have mass shootings all the fucking time. They don't end up on the fucking news, but it's still happening. Is it still a problem? Fuck yeah, of course. So that's one of the things about the George Floyd thing that is so interesting, because it made people have to see and be like, oh shit, that's a fucking problem. But Lauren doesn't like that because she thinks that this is like And she doesn't like this now because she doesn't want Jon Stewart bringing it up and reminding people. And that's really what it is. And so she's making this claim that Jon Stewart is somehow now, like totally woke, and even that he's talking about like, violence against black people and that there's a fucking problem and blah, 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 blah. It's all new because Jon Stewart has fallen. Jon Stewart's become woke. Well, we got Daily Show. This is about 2014, 8 years ago. We Can't Breathe. Oh, I wonder what he's talking about there. Talking about there was Freddie Gray? Eric Garner. And then also, Race Off. Interesting. Talking about the Predator 2, apparently. No. Ferguson, and talking about the killing of black people by white officers and how it has happened all the fucking time. He has been talking about this for a long time. He is not now suddenly woke. The difference is that you, Lauren, have devolved your stupid ass brain into a pile of cat shit. That's the fucking problem. Jon Stewart didn't change. You did. You catered to a fucking worse, gross, disgusting fucking ideology and pumping it full for all the fucking money you can. Throwing away every little aspect of being charitable or centrist about fucking anything to now being a vapid, hollow skull, dumb fuck, bimbo puppet for a bunch of talking points. Hollow-headed, no brain, low IQ, vapid. Ugh. I'm sorry, man, but Lauren is legitimately a waste of fucking oxygen. That's all there is to it. Anyway, yeah, this sucks. I'm done.